Hey everybody, this is John Raymond coming to you from my workshop space here in Bloomington, Indiana. And today I wanted to talk about major 7 sharp 11 chords, and specifically what not to do on major 7 sharp 11 chords. This is the kind of chord that I hear so many people approach this from an intellectual, academic perspective, and they sound awful playing over these chords. You do not want to be one of these people. So we're going to talk about 3 specific ways to work on these and ways to think about these kinds of chords that I think are going to help you sound more natural and really just generally not suck playing over major 7 sharp 11 chords. All right, so before we dive into some practical ways that you can work on playing over these chords and sounding good on them, let's get a little context first, okay? So a lot of times you would see a major 7 sharp 11 chord in the context of a major key, right? So say we're in A flat major, for example, you would see perhaps a D flat major 7 sharp 11 chord because it's going to be in the same tonal center as that A flat major, right? You might also see, like, for example, D flat major 7 flat 5, right? It's a different way to write this chord and a different way to really to voice it, but it's the same sound inherently. Now, another context you might see this chord in would be in playing a song in a minor key, right? So let's imagine we're in C minor, okay, and we have the chord A flat major 7 sharp 11, right? That's like the flat 6 in the minor key. So that's another context that you would see it in very frequently that you want to get accustomed to that as well. One other thing to note, sometimes you're going to see this chord, especially when you think about like post-bop music from, say, Wayne Shorter, Joe Henderson. You would see a major 7 flat 5 or major 7 sharp 11 chord as like the flat 2 in place of a minor chord. So take the Wayne Shorter composition Speak No Evil, for example, right? First 8 bars of the song, we're in C minor, going back and forth to D flat major 7 sharp 11 or D flat major 7 flat 5 and back to C minor. So that's another context you'd see this in pretty frequently. Okay, so let's get into some practical ways you can start to approach these kinds of chords. Okay, so again, let's take our D flat major 7 sharp 11 chord. What you should not do is play a scale or an idea that has D flat as your main sort of key center. Why is that? Well, again, because if we're seeing this chord in the context of a major key, that key is A flat major, that'd be the equivalent to you playing the 4 over a major chord. And while that can work, it's got a lot of tension, and frankly, it sounds bad. So if you do that over a major 7 sharp 11 chord, in this case D flat major 7 sharp 11, and you play something that hinges around that D flat, you're going to play something that academically works, but you're going to sound awful. So don't do that. Please, for all things good about music, do not play something that centers around a D flat. Okay, so here's 3 things that you can do that will actually start to help you sound good on this kind of a chord. Okay, the first thing is you can approach this chord from either the 7th of that major 7 sharp 11 chord or the 3rd of that major 7 sharp 11 chord, and it's going to sound a lot more harmonious and melodic than if you start on the root. So in our case, right, we've got D flat major 7 sharp 11, play that same scale, that same sound starting on C, right? This is an example of what that would sound like, and you're going to notice what we're really doing here is we're just thinking like C Phrygian, if you want to go mode specific, over the D flat major 7 sharp 11, like this. All right, so let's do that same thing now, but let's start from the 3rd of D flat major 7 sharp 11. So we're going to start on F. And again, if you transfer this to a mode and a way of thinking about it, you're essentially playing F Aeolian, right? And that's going to help you sound, as I said, more harmonious, more melodic over this D flat major 7 sharp 11 chord. Now, another thing that you can do is play some minor pentatonic language from these same scale degrees, right? So if we've got D flat major 7 sharp 11 or D flat major 7 flat 5, we want to think C minor pentatonic or F minor pentatonic. That's going to give you a little more of an intervallic way to get around that sound that's going to sound very melodic over these chords and is always going to sound good. So here's an example of me doing each of those different things. I hope you're starting to see that as we approach playing these scales, starting in different places, it opens up the sound of the chord tremendously. So you feel like you can start to access different parts of the vocabulary that you're used to playing, right? We're used to playing these kinds of sounds because we start to hear the arpeggios and the ways of getting around these chords a lot easier than playing on a major 7 sharp 11 chord. So let's talk about one last way you can work on playing over these kinds of chords. Okay, I would suggest maybe going to some triad pair language. That can work really nice here, right? So again, if we're thinking of our D flat major 7 sharp 11 chord, really that's essentially like putting an E flat triad over a D flat major 7 chord, for example, right? And so what you can do is take that D flat and E flat triad, and you'll sound really nice just playing in some different ways with those triad pairs over that sound. Something like this. You can also take minor and major triads and kind of mix them together and create a really nice triad pair sound as well. So let's maybe take a E flat major triad and an F minor triad, and we'll play back and forth between these sounds over this chord, and that'll give us a different sort of triad pair approach to this, something like this. So I guarantee you, if you think about playing over major 7 sharp 11 chords or major 7 flat 5 chords in these ways, you are going to sound a million times better than if you start that very academically, playing it from the root of where that chord and scale is. That's always going to sound super stiff, super lame, like you really don't know what the music should sound like. You're just living in academic mode, and you don't want to sound like that. So I hope these strategies can be helpful for you as you think about playing over these chords in whatever context you see them in. And if you have any questions about it, just drop me a line. I'm happy to help you in any way I can. We'll see you guys next time.